You're listening to Sage Against the Machine, where we talk about the local res politics here in Akwesasne and throughout Indian country. My name's Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
And we've been talking for about 20 minutes. And I made a boo-boo.
Pretty good stuff, too.
That's okay. I wanted to talk about land claims anyway.
Yeah, I do, too. Well,
what was the good thing I said before?
Well, it actually kind of, plays in, though, to the land claim stuff and the seaway claim. You know what I mean? Like what we were just talking. We were just talking about how everybody is a little cog in the machine and the bureaucratic power that we all think, that it seems like our tribal leadership doesn't necessarily believe that they have that much, but when you examine it, our nation does have a lot of leverage and influence. So,
and influence is worth a lot.
It is. I mean, we can scare the shit out of people.
Imagine
here.
if we funded local politicians.
This is what I'm saying.
And the towns around us, but we picked them and they did our bidding.
Yes.
And we did it openly.
Yes.
We openly did it.
Yes. There's like we were talking about just before Josh forgot to start recording that he called me out earlier when he wasn't recording, so I'm getting
I wasn't recording either. Caught you being a politician with your quid pro quo.
There you go. I'm in next time.
And I said something awesome, and then I don't remember what it was.
I don't either. I have it's like we got the memory of a goldfish or some shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. So like all of that stuff. I mean, it's just very interesting to think about in that way. I don't know. I just don't know that anybody is really like the local politician thing. It kills me because Bombay. We talked about Bombay before, and we literally could. We could pick two people from Akwesasne and determine who the judges are in Bombay.
Yeah.
The ones who have the authority to, lock up.
And we'll pick the wrong one.
Hey.
Just like we did locally.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, the tribal court judge we have now really should not be there. But yeah, I mean, we could do those things. And I'm kind of getting to, like, I've always understood the idea of, and this is like I'm trying to get around to, the local politicians and why we don't do that is, and I understand the idea of our people saying, that's not our country, it's not our people, it's not our community. Right. I totally understand that, but the older I get, I keep thinking that that's a mistake.
Well, truthfully, our ancestors did it.
Right.
Our ancestors had a Turo, if the Turo Wampa was not something we just invented, which is quite a possibility.
You really think so?
I think my personal, I'm not a historian, but I read a lot.
Yeah, you know a lot.
Heard a lot, but my take is that it's a metaphor that we've had all along. We do have treaties like that. We have covenant chain treaties. Right. So covenant chain language is used in it. There's two rows, two paths, two rivers. Mm-hmm. We have all of those. There's a word for what I'm trying to think of. Anyways, we have those mental constructs and mnemonic type things within our culture, and so it falls in line with that. I don't know if there was an actual meeting between the Dutch and the early Mohawks who said we make this treaty to be self-evident. So, but the idea I think exists all along, but we do have plenty of instances in history where we were playing France and England off of one another.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And choosing our side and affecting local stuff. So I think we've just been given an inferiority complex. Like we began this conversation talking about how even little managers and low-level people in all these bureaucracies think they have a right to tell people what to say, where they're going to say it, how the information will be presented, as if they own it or something. And it's I've noticed it being pervasive. I think it's gross. I think it's dishonest. I think if you boldly stride forward with your message and unafraid and unabashed, and if you make mistakes, fuck it, you make mistakes. That's the way to be. And I don't appreciate this underhandedness and this. And maybe there's nothing to it, maybe they're just trying to protect their fief, but I don't like it.
I despise it. And like what we said earlier is that I think that you and I both are willing to actually say this shit out in front of everybody. And I do think that probably has affected, some of our opportunities, whatever, all that kind of shit. Even like the way that we're viewed in the community, you know what I mean? Because I know that I've heard said about you, and I'm guessing I've heard said about me when I'm not around, is that I'm one of the troublemakers, and the thing is like, if you're going to view me as a troublemaker, well, then tell me how I am. And then I'll hear you out and I'll respond. But it is that gatekeeping of information, and it does come off as... It comes off as arrogant, and it comes off as like controlling on a level that is not palatable to me, you, most people, but most people won't say it.
They just I've noticed that most people calmly accept anything.
Yeah, they will.
You know what actually came up today?
Doesn't mean they like it though.
Yeah. But they won't. It takes all it takes for evil to prevail is for a good person to do nothing.
Exactly.
And it also, I think it was today, I had a conversation and I couldn't remember the name of it, and I do now. The Milgram experiment came out. It's an experiment in Milgram, I think New York. It's a famous psychological experiment where the doctors, who looked very official, told these college students to deliver an electric shock to a supposed patient, and they told them to crank it up until it was like fatal. It wasn't real. The whole thing was actors.
Yeah. I actually know what you're talking about.
But the people did it.
Yep.
The people did it. Now, but you can change people, though. The good mind, right? Now that we know the Milgram experiment is a thing, and it is a fact of psychology that people tend to do what they're told, you know that, undeprogram yourself.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. So let's not be that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the takeaway. The takeaway of that lesson isn't like, I know a cool piece of trivia. It's like, okay, we can use this now in life, knowing that maybe the information being fed to me isn't true.
But I think yeah, and like I agree with you, deprogramming yourself, because I mean, look at the way that we consume news and all those sorts of things. Most people end up in an echo chamber, and that's not necessarily their fault, because I mean, let's be real. The mainstream media, social media, they do end up, because they have so much influence and control over what you see on a screen. They are curating things. That's why, everybody says the algorithm. Yeah. They're curating it for you, and then a lot of people end up in an echo chamber.
And they're playing with your emotions.
And they are.
On purpose.
They're what was the Facebook, remember he might have been like the CTO or something, like when they first started, and he testified in front of Congress, and what he said was that Facebook actually, that they learned that it was scientifically like accurate with psychology, that the likes and the shares and all that stuff, that does feed on your like serotonin and your endorphins. Yeah. And they knew that, and they exploited it, and all of the other social media companies do it too.
Let's say their name.
Yeah.
Frances Hogan was her name, testified before a Senate panel telling lawmakers they must intervene to solve a crisis created by her former employer's products. Leaked documents at the court revealing the stuff that she revealed. But basically, that people click on, it's the Howard Stern effect.
It is.
They will pay attention to shit they hate.
Yep.
And that angers them more than stuff they like.
I mean, you watch I like to go on Reddit. I've only been doing it for like a couple months now, really. But it's interesting is like, you end up getting, because I love to debate politics, all that shit. I love it. Like what you and I are doing now, like talking. I mean, you and I get along well, but I like to get into it.
It's a little different face to face too than it is on a text chat.
Oh, people online aren't going to say the shit they do to me in person. There's no fucking way. Like, I'm not going to, like, I don't know jujitsu and shit like that, but I ain't afraid to fight. And if you said that shit to me in person, I would fucking hit you as hard as I could.
Because of your opinions, you shall get ass cancer or die.
Yeah, like I heard someone say, I hope you get herpes or something, and I could not stop laughing.
I would say that out loud.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, I mean, I laughed. But yeah, I mean, so you end up in these places where it tends to be curated. You end up in an echo chamber. You have you're because you're in that, you think it's all normal. So like you're in there, you're comfortable. You're never thinking, do I need to take a step back and like kind of maybe even start a new profile that's fresh and then go look around and see what else is going on. You know what I mean? Because like what you were talking about with that experiment. So now we know that humans are that way, right? It's definitive. It can't be argued. So then, it's not just about taking yourself out and deprogramming yourself. The people who are feeding the information should be rethinking. And this is the thing, they're not going to. This is kind of what
doesn't make money to rethink.
Exactly. It doesn't, like, this is kind of one of the foundational, like, springing boards for why we're doing this is because those in power know this shit, but they won't do it.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it because if you fed people good faith, intellectually honest, respectful information that was full in scope, this shit wouldn't be happening like it does now. It wouldn't. And that is probably one of the most gross and insidious things that happens with people in power.
Yeah. And if anyone's labeling others as troublemakers because they talk, that's a sign.
It is.
Like if someone told me, I once upon a time was more invested and involved in local politics, and somebody talked about, buying votes and buying influence, and that to me told me that person is completely corrupt. Another person who is, valued by our community passed away one time, said it doesn't matter who's elected. We work there anyway. And we're, the directors and all the people, the bureaucracy is the ones who really call the show. It said it in a way to be like, don't worry about who gets elected. But I saw the corruption, and I guess I'm the kind of person who was like, ew. Like it had the opposite effect. It actually, maybe it radicalized me. Like, oh, this is common. This had me looking more into things. This is why when you hear people talk about communism, I'm like, look a little deeper. Look a little deeper than the economic policy.
Yeah. I think
look at psychology.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, my wife, she got her degree in psychology, and she's telling me these things, and I'm like thinking about it. Now, mind you, like this is after the campaign and stuff. And as she's telling me these things, I'm like, this is the shit that politicians do. Like they literally must have, behavioral experts and psychologists, whoever to help them. I mean, fuck, Facebook did it like we were just talking about. So these are tactics that they use willingly, knowingly, gleefully at times.
So the more narcissistic you are, the better you'll do.
Absolutely.
Until you're a complete, narcissistic personality disorder. I bet you there are a lot of them. And behind the wheels of power. If it's true psychopathy.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I think, like, I don't know if you and I have talked about this before, but I mean, I'll call myself out on this. If, my intentions for why I wanted to be on tribal council truly were, they really came from a good place. But I do have an ego. I want people to say, Isaac did really good. He's really trying to help. Yeah. Like, I do want that. You know what I mean? I fully admit that. And I think that most people who are like seeking those kinds of leadership positions, they have egos.
Yeah,
they do. And that certainly feeds into it, because look, I've talked to a lot of the politicians, around here. And, you know, I like most of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if anybody tried to tell me that they don't have an ego that plays into what they do, I will tell you you're full of shit.
Right.
Because it does.
And for me, that's mostly what I don't want people full of shit.
Yep.
To have control of anything. that's I don't think that's a big ask. You know, you can honestly say I make mistakes, but you know, like I ran as a comedy bit.
Yeah, I know. That was what,
because
like,
Johnny B was supposed to run.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in town. He was
Yep.
at Florida. So
that was, and I think the community recognized what you were doing, but the thing, and I tell you this all the time, but I really appreciated it because I think that, you know, it's a role that, like, you're a comedian, and there's a role that comedians, satirists, you know, like that is crucial to illuminating, you know, the absurdities of what people do. You know what I mean? Politicians are ripe for this shit. So I really liked, I knew what you were doing. You know what I mean? I didn't take it as an offense. I took it as, I actually was really thankful that you did, because you just came out of the box and you were pointing out the, you know, the disparities between, like, what people really are doing and, like, using the comedic effect to highlight it. And that I appreciated because, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that this is right, but, like, you take someone like Dave Chappelle, right? When he speaks about politics, people listen. More people who than actually watch the fucking news, you know, or read a news article every fucking day. But when he points out, like, how full of shit they are based on, you know, just using those examples and, like, look how ridiculous this shit looks. And then you can point and say, you just did the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to try to sit there and tell me I'm a troublemaker, or that it's not, you know, that it's not a good thing to use those kinds of communication skills to point it out. Like,
yeah. And then it was troublemaker. My mistakes don't cost people their lives. My mistakes don't cost $90 million.
Yeah.
An additional $30 million. My mistakes don't have generational effects, you know? So that's, like, we get funny with these words. Trouble. This isn't even land claims.
I know.
But this
it can lead into it right now.
We'll lead there. But, like, another one I noticed was, like, well, you talk about violence. As if the system itself is not violent.
Right.
There are dudes in cars with lights on them, with uniforms on, and they will use violence. Somehow you accept that their violence is okay because they have a magic suit on. They're not just a guy who used to bully everybody in 8th grade. Now they have a gun and a billy club, and they're the same guy. And you can see it in their actions. And at home they have a Trump flag flying, and they have a Punisher sticker, which is problematic in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I don't, like, I've never actually looked into it, but I suspect that the Punisher symbol is like a secret thing.
It's a
like,
force thing because the Punisher's actually
I know.
He kills corrupt cops.
He kills everybody who's a bad guy.
That's how you know they didn't read the comic. Fake nerds.
See, I never read the comic. I just watched the show.
Yeah.
Which is great, by the way.
It is. John Bernthal's great.
Oh, man, he's awesome. That dude is so good. Like,
he plays such a good scumbag.
He plays a good scumbag. He plays a good hero. He plays a good, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, too, with the Punisher. I mean, if you just, like, if you weren't watching a narrative about it and you took a step back, you'd be like, holy fuck, this guy's a psycho.
This guy's a psycho mass murderer.
I mean, he kind of is a psycho.
That's exactly what he is. He's a psycho mass murderer where he's that 70s movie, Out to Kill?
With Charles Bronson?
Charles Bronson. What am I thinking of?
Oh, God damn it. Death Wish.
Death Wish. That's
the
Punisher.
old school.
That's the Punisher. He's not a good guy.
No. Like, I like him because he goes after the bad guys, but, like, I mean, objectively by society standards, he is not a good man.
Yeah.
He's not.
And so objectively, when you strip away the the things we're supposed to do, like, oh, wave your flag. That's not my flag. That's not my culture. Like, no, you're a guy with a gun who drives in a car. You're looking more and more like a soldier,
right?
Which is weird, but it's for safety,
right? And like, I mean, we've done the cop thing over.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
over.
but it's one example of how
and I get
violence
that.
inherent in society.
It is
pretending it's not there.
Yep.
Pretending your violence is okay.
Yep.
You know, the I got behind me a warrior flag, which is presented as violent.
Right.
But when's the last time anyone has done any violence under this flag? Typically it's people defending themselves against corporations and government.
That's right.
You know, 9 times out of 10, that's what it is.
Yep.
Meanwhile, how much violence was done under police? Aren't they? It's a pretty big problem all over, and it's important locally because they get the same training. Mm-hmm. Training's the same.
Yeah, and there's
the attitude.
I mean, honestly, I'm glad that you brought that up because there is state-sanctioned violence, and you know, and why is that okay? Well, it's for the greater good. It's for, you know, we have better judgment than you, and we know when to use it, and all this shit. Okay, say that all you want, but the minute that, you know, you get some citizens together who are, in my, like this is just an example, but like, who in this hypothetical scenario, you know, if it's a situation comes up and you get a group of citizens together, they band together and they go out to defend, you know, whatever it is. And they end up using violent means, but only in response to, you know, an initial action by an aggressor, be it a state-sponsored one or another group of whoever. You know, it's always going to, well, I mean, the state is almost always going to portray those people in a bad light. And the warrior flag is a good example because, you know, it's like you look at oppressed people around the world, they take the warrior flag and use it to express that, you know, the oppressed, the fighting back against the big guy. You know what I mean? Unity, strength for those people.
Fuck, we're good at symbols.
Yeah, I know, right? But that's true. But they get like, you know, and then you end up with, and then of course, you know, most of those state agencies, powers, whatever, when they see that or they talk about that flag, it's evil.
Yeah, it's a terrorist symbol.
Yeah, it's a terrorist.
The Canadian military literally had people dressed like Mohawk warriors, and they were using it to train. You know, these are the people that are killing the terrorists.
Yep. So I mean, it's just like it always is coming back to. It's almost like it. I mean, I guess it is. It's just like perceptions. You know, people's perceptions and how they get formulated and how they get manipulated.
George Carlin had a whole bit on this in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's, you know, it's one person's freedom fighters, another person's terrorist.
Oh, yeah. It's true. I mean, that shit's just as true today as it was 50 years ago.
So when it comes, typically those states have their local actors, and those are the federally recognized elective councils on either side of the border. Each one has their own. They have various powers. The tribal one has more power. The Canadian one has a lot more people.
Yep.
So both of these are in charge of land claims and land and negotiating. And somehow the offshoot, I think it's more egregious in Canada because the band council is literally a creation of
Canada.
I think is a little muddier when it comes to the U.S. side. A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. So both have different claims going on right now. Are you abreast of this?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I don't see, and that's the thing, like when we were speaking about this on on this show, is that, you know, I'm initiated enough. I mean, I think that if I give my opinions, I'm not speaking out of complete and total ignorance. I don't, you know, as you referred to earlier, we have a lot of historians in Akwesasne, people who know a hell of a lot more than me, but I know the basics and I'm not going to pretend I know anything more than just, so, I know a little bit, but it's, I think that this is something that, is ripe for discussion, and I know you know a lot more, so.
I don't know if I do.
I don't know.
I have fuzzy longhouse guide knowledge.
Yeah, well, I mean, the stuff that I picked up from like when I was working other places and, learning about all this stuff it's like, because, I mean, if you look at the Seaway claim, I know like very, very little about. I'm actually reading about it now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to do an article for next week's paper. And then the land claim over here, which actually, I mean, MCA is a part of too. But, I mean, it really comes down to, for me, I don't want to settle. I don't want to settle because, and it's not like the land is the most important thing, but I also think that there's something that people aren't considering when we settle is that it looks like we're giving up. And I don't want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to, I mean, I guess this is ego too. I don't want to look weak.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that, maybe I'm wrong that it's a sign of weakness, but I'm being completely honest here. That's part, it partially feels like that to me to settle, is that it's weakness. You don't have that fearless heart to go into that courtroom and fight it out.
Okay.
Like I just, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm stubborn and all that shit, like really bad. And once I dig in, it's, like I can come out of it, but it's just like, this is something where I really feel strongly about that, is that it feels a little bit like weakness to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like how we were talking before about the leverage influence that, we can exert here, but we don't. This is an opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We go into court and we lose. Well, it's like, I'm not even kidding. I would rather take that than a payoff.
Yeah.
I would.
You'd rather have nothing than.
I would rather have nothing and fight like hell than end up with, and mind you this too, what they're offering us is a fucking pittance. You know what I mean?
What's on the table?
I think it's shit. It's the land set aside that we can buy back.
Yeah.
And then there's the access to the the power.
Yeah.
There is
some money.
There's money, but I can't remember the exact dollar amount.
I think it was 32 million.
Yeah, I thought it was like 30 or 40 million,
over
something like that.
2 million a year
yeah.
for like 15, 20 years.
And then this is the other thing, is that it seems like this the messaging kind of shifts sometimes to me to where it actually confuses me.
Yeah.
Because like I've heard counsel say, well, we're going to settle, but we're not giving up any land. And I'm like,
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Maybe I should have went to the meetings.
Right. Because like, to me, if you like, are we completely giving up on the miles square?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are, then in my mind, we are giving up land, much more valuable and useful land to our people than those fucking 8,000 acres or whatever it is out in St. Lawrence County. You know what I mean? Like, so I just, that's kind of the way that I come at it. And I don't know. There's lawyers that I've talked to about this, and because normally what you hear from the attorneys who work for the tribe, they're afraid of the Supreme Court. Okay, I get it.
Because it's Trump's.
Well,
Wow,
right.
Right.
Well, this is something else that people don't fucking recognize. Like Trump's first appointee, Neil Gorsuch, he is actually, well, I know he's like a religious fundamentalist in some ways, which, whatever, do your own thing. But But he actually is very, very friendly to the Indian. Very. I didn't know that when he first was nominated. I was working at the court, and one of the lawyers told me, because they were from out west, so they said, read this particular case. It was involving the Utes out in Utah. And so I read it, and I came away, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, this guy just like totally sided with the natives. And then the recent decision for Ikwa came out.
Yep, that's true.
And he was right there. And so I kind of knew he was going to do that, but I was worried about the rest of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's just like I understand the fear. Whenever we go to court,
it's a risk.
Yeah, it is a risk, and we tend to get fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think you got to look at the composition of the court. Gorsuch actually could really be a friend here. So that would probably take, that the 3 liberal justices are good. So right there, it's 5-4.
Do you think the liberal justices be on our side?
I do.
Because I have a feeling like New York's a very blue state.
Yep.
And giving land to Indians might piss off some blue state people.
True.
And then I've read before that the federal government tends to side with Indians because it reduces state power, especially New York.
It's an interesting theory.
Because Indian land comes under federal government, not state government.
Yeah.
So it's like
we're in a unique.
Yeah, we are, because we're a 13 colony thing.
Yeah,
which is fucking weird.
And 232 and 233, that shit. It's definitely different. But I mean, yeah, we do have a unique relationship with the state and all of that stuff than to basically every other tribe, in the United States. But I think that it's like, because one thing is, and I don't care who's listening to this who will get mad at me for it, I can't stand RBG. She's the one who wrote the opinion in Cheryl, right? Now, I've also read things that she regretted it, whatever. But I do think that the current liberal justices on the court, I actually believe that they would side with us because they know how bad the Cheryl decision fucked all of us. Like how much that hurt all Indians, all Indian land claims. They know that. I think that there's a really good shot that Gorsuch would side with us. So that's 5-4.
Yeah.
And obviously, Alito, Thomas, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, I don't think that they would go with us. But I actually think there's a chance. I mean, maybe one of them would. But I think there may be a chance to get, and probably not Roberts actually, but there's a shot to get one of the other conservatives. I think that there is. And like I said, we lose, we walk away with nothing. We walk away with nothing. And yeah, I'll die on that hill.
Yeah.
I will. Because even if we lose, what is going to change for us?
Well, functionally, nothing would change except for the triangle.
Exactly.
And I think we could still just break the law.
Yeah.
Like,
don't pay it.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of just breaking the law if everybody's going to break it with me.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We stand unified with this shit. You know what I mean? It's not like, I mean, that's one of the things that one of the lawyers and I were talking about. And he said that to me. He was like, he asked me that question. He said, look at it like this. If we go to court and we lose, what's really going to change?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I live on the land claim. So.
Exactly. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
I would just keep paying the tax I paid because I'm not a retard.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing is like, and even like there's all kinds of stuff that, and I wouldn't be able to explain it right, but the idea of the seizing of the land and, eviction and all that stuff. If you all stick, first of all, it is a process in New York State, but also if the people stuck together on this. The state does not want to have fucking problems with us like that, but everybody is so afraid of just being assertive because they're afraid that they will try to. The state does not want that. They do not want that. Look at what Hochul did to the Senecas, right?
Yeah,
that was fucking blowback that she got for that was crazy.
But was it real? Because like she's still there.
Oh, no.
They took all the money.
No. I know.
They're going to build a stadium.
Climate overall. Well, they were going to get that money anyway.
Yeah.
And
stick it in Bitcoin next time, guys.
Yep. Oh, I know that. Actually, you know what? That was do you and I talk about this before?
I don't know.
To have
our own currency.
Yeah, or like our own financial way to get around their system.
Yeah.
You know, like
we'll have to take tax. We'll have to do tax evasion on another.
Oh God. Well, that's the thing though, is like, so
it says it in the Constitution, India's not taxed.
Exactly. And I think that like, you know, so like just more outside the box thinking, being just stronger of will. Like it makes me cringe when I'm in a meeting or I'm hearing council speak and they are just outright telling everyone that they're afraid. I can't stand it.
Yeah. Have some boldness. So, okay, we don't go for this settlement. What happens next? Does it go, like, does it actually, I would doubt it would ever actually make it to court.
I mean,
that's what I'm waiting for, like, them to find some other kind of, like, reasoning to just not send it and just destroy it somehow.
You mean the state? And
the state and the federal government.
They probably would. I mean, I think at this point, though, none of the parties involved really want to kind of toss it away because they've been negotiating for so long. But
it's a whole lifetime for some lawyers.
Yeah, and I mean, millions of dollars in fees too.
What a great gig!
I know, dude. You
get paid so much money, these people just can't make up their minds, so you just keep doing it over again.
I mean, it must be nice to get like $500 an hour, all your expenses paid, you know, all of it, you know, and it's like, I don't know, I just kind of look at it from a different way, you know, the background that I do have in the legal field. I'm always going to look for a lawyer who wants to fight, you know, like I want to hear innovative ideas on how to fight a land claim. That's what I want to hear, you know, because I'm not trained enough to like flesh out a legal theory for how to do that.
Yeah.
But I know there are attorneys out there who have those ideas.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'd rather die on that hill. And maybe some of it's vanity, I don't know, or just, you know, your ego. I just don't want to look weak.
Okay. So like,
and it's not even looking weak. I don't want to be weak. I want to go for it because it's ours.
Yeah. Well, the radical in me says have lots of children and laws don't matter. We win the way the French won Quebec and the way the Amish are winning the North Country.
Yeah, no shit.
Is by filling it with millions of Mohawks that speak Mohawk and do their culture and language, and then you just kind of win by default.
That's what the fucking court already told everybody.
It's why Utah's owned by the Mormons.
Yes.
Like, you go to those there's places there that don't follow federal law. They just do their thing and nobody fucks with them.
Yep. Well, I mean, honestly, that's what the court fucking said in Cheryl. Basically, that was one of the things was the composition of the land that they want back over the last 200 years has changed so much, like to be white people living there, and that's the composition of that land now, that you can't just disrupt that anymore. Well, in the triangle, our people actually did that.
Yeah.
Started buying the land, having kids, occupying it. Now it's Mohawks instead of white people.
Yeah.
So now they don't want to fuck with that at all.
Right.
So that's ours, right? I mean, aside from the tax issue, outstanding, whatever. But so why don't we just do that? You know, go to those miles square, like start investing into buying that land.
Yeah.
And because I'm not like totally radical to the point where I'm like, no, let's go forcibly take it over.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go there because honestly, these people are friends and family.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point, half the town are these old white people that are racist and kind of stupid.
Yep.
We had to deal with a lawyer recently with an organization, a lawyer who has an office on Main Street in Fort Covington. Won't say his name because he's a lawyer. Very racist.
Really?
The kind of old-fashioned racist where you're fucking ignorant and you don't.
You just don't know it.
You just don't. Yeah.
Or
you just make these assumptions because you're a white guy and you think you rule the world, even though you're an old fucking fat old person. Nobody ever wants to fuck ever again. Wait, that's Average Outlaw. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah. So this guy who has an office in Fort Covington on Main Street that I won't. Right after 37 that I won't name. Yeah, he had to make these little comments, but it was just a land contract thing, so they had to deal with this guy because I don't know why. I would have hired somebody else, but I wasn't in charge.
Right.
I just heard about it third person because the person doing it was annoyed.
Right.
This old racist misogynist white man still has the fucking that should have retired 50 years ago, but he hasn't. So that's about half the town right there, like the ignorant. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope. That's another one, but I think that guy might be a little less ignorant.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, but no. But there's quite a bit of that in Fort Covington, and the rest are blended families.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's one of the things is that like, again, it would if the councils actually took that time and stepped back, you know what I mean, and like objectively analyzed all of this stuff, like instead of being at the point that we are now, we could have been working to try to populate these areas with Mohawks, you know what I mean, like and take, okay, $30 million for the IGA, right? What if you took $30 million and just started to look for properties for sale where the mile squares are?
The entirety of Fort Covington?
Right. You probably could buy most of the mile square in Fort for not $30 million. And then in Messina, the same thing. So start buying all of those fucking properties, move people in, start improving them, make businesses, move families in there for subsidized rents.
Yeah, feet on the ground.
Exactly.
Boots on the ground.
That's all it fucking takes.
I've been saying this for like 20 years.
I know. That's why I thought it was cool because you were one of the only other people that I've heard say the same thing, like what Jackie did over in Hopkins Point.
Yeah.
Go and just, don't threaten people, don't hurt people, but it's open. Just go occupy it. And start making something out of it.
And my friend, a friend of mine who's Mohawk who lives in Bombay, said we can also get on their town councils.
That's what we were just talking.
Especially if you have so many Mohawks. If we voted as blocks, I mean, Longhouse people can do that as well. Like I'm also a fan, not just what I like about this sort of thinking is it allows individual action. Mm-hmm. Yes, the tribal council, Mohawk council, who has a huge housing problem, could do that. They could create a nonprofit. They could create land trusts.
Yep.
They could do it legally, right within the system that exists now, without doing anything special.
Absolutely.
They could use some of these monies that they're getting from various land claims, like the Seaway claim, which is done. It's a done deal.
They still got to vote.
I'm not sure which one's done, but the OPG deal's done. The trust exists.
Yeah, I think the OPG is done.
Yeah. So the Dundee settlement claim is done.
Yep.
You have this trust. Now they're arguing over what to do with the money.
Yep.
How about instead of building another splash pad by the river down Snai? That's an irritating one. It's like you don't have a beach, but you build a splash pad. You fucking assholes.
Make a beach.
Yeah, that's just another piece of. Anyways, tangent. But you could use that money to buy up these places and put people in homes, put them to work.
Yep.
And individuals could do this too. You got extra, you got some extra weed money sitting around. Buy a spread. Some of the smart, back in the day, a lot of the cigarette people did that. Exactly that.
Some of these guys have done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of the dispensary, weed guys, they have done it. Probably not for the purposes of what you and I are thinking of, but it goes back to that, like the idea of the collective, right? So, you're Mr. Pink Mr. Pink and Mr. Blue have $10 million each, and they're already comfortable. Their houses are built, all that shit. Maybe you take $1 million of, $1 million or $2 million that you got stashed away and meet with some other rich people, collectively talk about, let's go start buying out chunks of land. Yeah. And, was it you who was talking about like less expensive ways to like build housing and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Let's put some of those up, and like you move families out there that are, like 3, 4, 5, 7, whatever, families out there, all that stuff. And we just start occupying it. Mm-hmm. And eventually, because Bombay, they have to be losing population. There's no fucking way.
They're filling up with the Amish.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, there's no way that you can tell me that, like, my understanding is the last time I checked it, we're one of the only places in the North Country that has a growing population. Yeah. One of the only. So we all know on the res, we don't have enough land for everybody. Yeah. So why haven't they been fucking doing this for at least 10 years?
And that's where I go to the tree principle. The best time to plant an apple tree was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. The next best time is right now.
Exactly.
Like, we can't just keep waiting. Now, individuals have done this, but I encourage people to do that as a direct action. And as, the old mutual aid society. Mm-hmm. All of our longhouses, even some of these churches, they're mutual aid societies.
Yes.
It's our culture to do that. I keep seeing these spots in the Adirondacks for sale. DeBar Pond's for sale. Camp Bedford's for sale. These are, nice facilities.
Expensive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
$1 million. I mean, in the long run.
Well, you know what, though? We honestly, like, I brought up the IGA, and I didn't keep going with that specific thing, but...
Because we beat that dead horse every day?
Well, yeah, and that's fine, but, like, it's not even, like, just that they're stupidly building fucking office space, whatever. I'm done with it now. But I just think, like, what could you have done, like... Because, I wanted to make it a community center. Okay, so if we're not going to do that, what if you took that $30 million and started to buy up these chunks? Right. I mean, like, I just don't... Like, the council will come and directly tell us, this is why we're afraid, because the composition of these pieces of land are not Mohawk any longer. Mm-hmm. You've known this since 2005. It's 18 fucking years ago since Cheryl came out. Mm-hmm. There's been times where we've had money coming in, and this is like, the land around us is not all that fucking expensive most of the time.
No.
So just start buying it and putting up cheap housing and fucking occupy it.
And meanwhile, they are subsidizing rent.
Yeah.
To very wealthy people. But nothing against them. They invested their money wisely.
Well, I have issues with it.
Yeah. I'm fucking commie.
I don't go full communist.
But you're subsidizing to the tune. I wonder what it is. I honestly don't know what it is, but I know it's the average rent around here is like $850 a month. Uh-huh. So if they're subsidizing,
a commercial space.
Yeah. And 20 rents and 50 rents, 100 rents, how many? I don't know. But imagine if that money was put towards, okay, you own these properties, let's just say in Fort Covington or Messina, and you're subsidizing yourself. So you're taking DSS money that's, probably comes from, federal, state government, and you're paying yourself with it.
Yes.
That sounds like good business to me.
Oh God, what the fuck do they say? A good businessman never spends his own money.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you have two councils. You have Canadian side that could easily funnel its money through the American side, this border that doesn't exist, so we say.
Yeah, well, don't, like, because
it's like, along those people are like, we're the only ones who fucking actually do this shit, but we're so full of our own shit. Like, we have no excuse. You can call the tribals and the MCA and the band people colonized. You can. We've got no excuse. I mean, we could be doing this stuff collectively as well.
Yes, we could. And I mean, like my longhouse isn't the nation longhouse, but it's, I mean, these ideas do get talked about or were talked about. I don't know anymore because I haven't been going, but like there's that idea of the collective, like truly getting back to the collective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all these ideas get talked about, like starting a farm that will feed everybody, all this stuff that never comes to fruition. And, you ask yourself why.
Mm-hmm.
And the answers that I have are not flattering.
No, I find typically it's momentum. It's often greed and avarice.
Greed.
Occasionally it's fear.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Laziness.
And then I think, because I think the people who really want to, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll use a friend of mine. I don't mind naming Dean George.
Mm-hmm.
Got on that piece of land, built a little shack, and there he lives. Hey,
Where at?
right across from number 9. One of those shacks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There. So he's a residential school survivor,
Mm-hmm.
an escapee, and I think more people like you don't have to go to those extremes, but you can. And so I think that's where people get sour about it. And maybe myself included. Like, what's stopping me from? I mean, I have done a few things, but
Well, I mean, no. I understand totally.
I'm on board. I got 2,000 to throw into the mix. All right, guys.
Shit to throw
I'll put
in right
$2,000
now.
in if you want to do a collective thing.
I'm getting closer and closer to where I would.
That's
will
my
be able to
emergency
do
fund,
that.
by the way.
Well, I don't even have an emergency fund right now, but once a little more time, and I will.
Yeah.
But anyway, honestly, like once I get to where I have that ability, I will throw in. You know what I mean? I will, and figure out like if you, me, and like a few other people really want to throw in together and buy a piece of land, refuse to pay the taxes, and occupy it, I'm down for that. Because I learned a lot about the eviction process from this particular lawyer. And I think that the key, though, is to put something on it that's actually like you're working it, basically.
Yeah.
That's crucial to what, you know what I mean, to doing that in some cases, unless you can put multiple families in like really close together, you know what I mean?
Like a church.
Yeah, right. Yeah, whatever.
I don't.
A longhouse.
I particularly don't mind using legal loopholes too, like like trusts, like because part of the we like to talk about sovereignty and it's great, but there's also peace and there's peace of mind, and if having a nonprofit makes your thing happen without a fight, that's pretty groovy.
It is.
Like, and we will pretend everybody pretends that all of our sovereign organizations are sovereign. Am I falling behind or something?
No, I was trying to see how long. Holy shit!
Yeah, we've been talking almost an hour. A lot of them actually come under trusts.
Yep.
Including some, very communities with flags like this in the background. Yeah, they have a trust too.
Yeah.
Don't fucking fool yourself.
I know.
And it's okay.
It is.
Like, I think that's where I've softened a little bit because I used to be much more.
I used to be like that
fanatical about that.
Me too.
But then if you can save yourself 2 generations of fighting till, okay, well, maybe it's 2150 and you have thriving communities and you exist under these legal loopholes, but now there's 1 million of you.
Right.
So now you're going to have a different fight with a whole different.
Yep.
That's 7 generational thinking.
It is. And I have no, because I used to be kind of like pretty militant about that too, was, like a trust or, using certain things to be able to benefit the people. I kind of thought when I was younger, I used to think that it was like, I would do that thing like, oh, well, that's a white man's way. And I think that as you get older,
that violates 2-row wampum.
Exactly. Like, I think as you get older, you start being more pragmatic. And if you're if you don't, I think that you may not be developing properly.
Well, also it's about your own ego when you're young. Like a lot of these, it's real easy to stand on the front lines and point guns and flashlights and shut. That's fucking fun. I don't know if you've ever set tires on fire.
No, I have not.
It is awesome. I don't know if you've ever flown a fucking flag with a gas mask on, but it is so cool.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I imagine it. I mean, the couple times that I've actually been like where something was popping off, like politically, and you're out there, it is exciting.
Yeah, if you're not afraid to cast everything to the wind,
and
you have nothing to lose, or this is your whole identity, it is great. But it's all about your ego.
It's all about your ego.
A lot of it's about your ego.
It's
about your ego, and your own sense of identity becomes the struggle.
You're making the show.
Yeah, so you don't want an end to the problems.
Yeah,
just like the cops don't want an end to crime.
And
we could end a lot of crime.
And you know goddamn well as I do, there are a lot of people in Akwesasne who want exactly that. Mm-hmm. They don't want it to end. They don't want conflicts to stop. And you know what the fucked up thing is that when again, I'm not a scholar on Guyana, but I do listen to what I get taught. And like, Francis passed. Mm-hmm. And Francis and I spent a lot of time together. And, like, I think that like, when you said about peace, it's something that, like, rings through to me more. I think actually when he passed, it kind of made me think about it even more, was that, you think of Francis, like, he's the war chief and all this. Like, I don't know how many times he would tell me, it's all about reaching the peace. That's all it's about. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. If we have to fight, okay, whatever. But the goal is to reach the peace. Mm-hmm. So, being pragmatic, being more mature, using those loopholes, whatever you got to do. If it, and I'm not always saying like you always want the path of least resistance, but you have to analyze this stuff mm-hmm. and see if the modes that you're trying to use are just causing conflict that's, not going to benefit you in the future. Mm-hmm. Or even if it will, it's going to take decades longer. Yeah. Like it's, so I don't, it's kind of like, I just think that that's the best way to go about it now is like, because I say this shit all the time, use their system against them. Mm-hmm. Be educated in it and then use their system against them.
Without it taking you over.
And
that's always the crux, isn't it?
It
is a rare individual who spends a lot of time into that system. I've heard it. Look, I heard it sent to, our people are going to go to the military. They'll come back with this training. I've only seen it once. Mm. I know one guy who teaches people like stuff that he learned from the military. Yeah, he runs nature camps and shit now out west. Oh, okay. It's like British Columbia out west.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy who would go around and train, people to do like, alternative politics.
Lifestyles? Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of it actually it's just turned into a nature school at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the most part.
That's cool.
Survival and shit. It's the same skills. Which, that's cultural uses of land.
There's like...
But it's rare.
It is rare.
It's rare the person who will do that and not come back singing their tune.
It's exceedingly rare to find... And look, I still plan on going to law school and becoming an attorney. But because I spent so much time around lawyers, native lawyers, it's very, very rare to see a native lawyer who still holds on to that fight the way that like you and I think about it, mm-hmm. And I'll say who it is. It's PJ, Hearn. Mm-hmm. And, PJ is like, it's the kind of mindset I like knows the system in and out, has been a lawyer forever, but never let that turn him into a system guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Never let that happen. And I'm lucky that he was the one that trained me, mm-hmm. So it is rare to find people who will get educated in it. And honestly, a part of it too is you need to, I honestly feel like this from having been around these people quite a bit. I kind of think if you're native and you want to use their system against them, you do have to get educated in their ways, but you do have to work in it for a while because you're never going to just academically figure it all out. You have to be in there and see how it works internally. That's the rub, right? Like, can you work in a place like that for 5 years for the benefit of your people when you come back, but not become completely corrupted by that?
Yeah.
You know, it is rare for people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm arrogant enough to think that I can do
You'll
it.
be the one.
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
it's not going to be me.
Yeah, that's
I'm going to be totally corrupt.
Josh will be like, fuck this. I'm making like fucking $300,000 a year.
Yeah, fuck you people.
I'll never go back.
Well, totally. Sign that paper. Yeah, fuck
Wait,
you.
Josh, you banked up a couple $1 million. Let's go take over some shit.
No,
I'm
cocaine.
good. I'm going to buy me a McMansion and get me a fucking Bugatti or something.
I'm too ADHD to do school like that.
But I mean, you know.
My bench is engineering anyway.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that's what, you know, that's what I to young people, man, STEM.
Yeah.
Get into engineering. Like,
I'm with you on STEM. I'm not smart enough to do it.
Yeah, we need more bridge builders and fewer
do.
book signers.
We do. That's what, look at me. I'm a fucking idiot. Like, all I was ever taught was like Isaac is a good reader and a good writer, so give him books and a pen and fucking let him go.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do shit now, and I don't make a lot of money. Not that like money is my most important thing, but you know, nowhere near what I should be making for my fucking education level and experience.
See, I don't have any of that, so.
You know what? Honestly, if there are any kids who happen to be listening to this or young people, you really need to
fucking nerd.
You really need to really think about whether or not you need to go to college.
Yeah.
I would probably in most cases, I would say go, if you're going to go to college, go STEM or go into a trade.
I agree. I think they pushed way too many people to college. It's a whole other thing.
Yep.
So I think we presented some solutions on land claims. You think take it to court? You're for taking court.
I want to go to court and fight.
All right. I live on the land claim, so I'm corrupted.
No, but it's important to get that insight from someone who will be directly affected. Because I won't. I live in Roosevelt Town.
Yeah.
It will not affect me directly.
I don't know how it would affect me because at this point, I would just still live in the town of Fort Covington.
Right.
I don't know if they would start to care about like rules and stuff at that point. I am for the solution of people buying up land anyway and just banding together and forming families and becoming interdependent. That's a long-term solution, but I mean, I see it happening. My neighbors are all blended families, so like this whole
native like blended.
Yeah, whole most of the street.
No shit.
Oh yeah.
All driving all the way down here.
Most of them, yeah.
No
I don't know who the new people are over there because they just moved in, so I don't think they are. But like,
great.
Yeah, most of the street is.
I think that's great.
If you go up to like the Drum Street here, quite a bit of it is.
Yeah.
And so there's whole families in this town that are blended, and that's our way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's get it. And look, the North Country farm dude has probably a lot more in common with the native farm dude than they do with than either one has with a lawyer.
Yes, farmers just have more in common with farmers than
yeah. So like we, you know, a lot of what we're talking about is like who controls what, and also like freedom and liberty, which is what I'm about. That's why do I care about all this shit? It's like, well, we have a microcosm of liberty and freedom and a way to make a different kind of living that's more fun and more beneficial to the people in the long run. And we could become that beacon on the hill, rising above, land of milk and honey.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. Or we could sell it all. We could just fucking move to Florida.
I know, right? That's like I ain't going to Florida. Fuck that. I'm
Utah.
too fat. I'm too fat for that shit.
Well, I'll put on special underwear.
I'll go, like maybe
Utah.
I'll go to like Wyoming or something like that. But
yeah.
I ain't going down south. But I mean, it's true though too. Is like, you know, that idea. Like, well, one thing is, you and I are both blended people.
No way.
So like, I know, right? Look at me. Look how fucking dark I am.
No way. It's just like Geronimo than me.
But it's just, you know, like those ideas of like, you know, the expansion of our population base because of the blending of families, you know, I think that's a good thing. I don't like that I don't like that attitude of no clan, no plan with just that's just your base and you have no reasoning behind it. It's just something you heard. And I mean, it's exclusionary. You know what I mean? And like, I respect the great law and all that. And I was born without a clan, but I think it's more important it's not more important than Guyana-Lagoa, but it's very important to make sure that we're including the people who are half, you know what I mean? But who have Mohawk heritage in them. That's not just like, you know, the fucking white lady in Missouri who says she's part Cherokee or whatever. But, you know, it's like, so that's a big part of it. And like, it's more outside the box thinking about the kind of things that you and I were just talking about. It just befuddles me to why don't they think of these things? And then inevitably, I mean, you must think this at some point too. They probably have thought of this and just said, fuck no.
Right, yeah. People have fundamentalist beliefs. When you come from trauma, you want to feel good about something. You want to elevate yourself. That's why Jesus people are the way they are, and it's why the white nationalists are the way they are.
Ugh.
Yeah, well, it all comes from the same place.
No, it does.
Yeah. I've heard born Longhouse people describe their society. They are describing fascism.
Yep.
So they don't realize that because they wrap it in feathers. But what they're describing is a very controlled society. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't jive with, I don't know, that's not how I want to live.
It doesn't. You know what?
It's great when you're in control, but it sucks when you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're one of the, you know, if you're within that, how I always say, the tribal elite, you know, bubble, you're good to go. You know what I mean? You're fine. And why would you want to switch that up?
Yeah.
And then and then we keep feeding into this thing of like, the people just don't try. You know what I mean? They just don't get involved. But
they're hobbits.
Yeah.
I read The Lord of the Rings. I want to throw the ring into the fucking volcano.
Me too.
That's where I am politically. Like, people don't get it. Like, you're this way, that way.
Yeah.
No, I want to throw away power. I want there to be no power.
I don't even, you know what? Like, I don't even care about, like, see, I told you that, right? There's a guy I talk to quite frequently, and he's a libertarian also. So it's very interesting to talk with him. But I kind of look at it like there's that individualism part of libertarianism that I understand it, like from an academic level, I guess. Practicality, I don't know that, you know, I don't agree with it, but I do think that there's a way for, to kind of switch that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to say it, but anyway, it's just like, there's got to be a way to flip that dynamic around to make people realize that it's not the best way to do it. And you know, how do you do it? Whatever. But
if you have any ideas, you can email.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I
comment,
I don't know.
like, and share.
I say this shit on, like, I'll say it on Facebook when people talk about this because, like, I'm no better. Like, I don't do enough. I've tried and then I quit because, you know, it's like you're that guy out there, like, you know, trying to rah cheer everybody on. And then after, you know, a few months, you're like, what the fuck? Like, nobody is like, oh, they all like what I say, but they don't fucking do anything to help me.
Well, yeah. So that's where putting your energy. Like you got to put your energy to young people because they're not established yet. So they have the fluidity and the freedom of movement.
That's right.
So, like this podcast, the other podcast we do, the comedy, even just making more money. Like I've been poor. I'm almost sort of not poor. There are forces of evil trying to make that differently. But what I've noticed and I like is every time somebody needs money, I can give them some.
Yeah.
That's fucking groovy.
It is.
And I don't care about the $50.
Yep.
I give them the $50. I don't want Giraffle. Here's your $50. Go excel, good sir.
Yep.
Please.
Yep.
I don't want recognition. I just hear I have this and here you go.
Yep.
Now you have this. I'm going to skip one meal at the Thai restaurant and here you go. So that's the start. Like that's common in our community.
Yep. It is.
So, and that's why I do the work I do with like my day job because all of our ventures as communities falter because of things like dispute resolution, because failure to get along, because of trauma. Like we've identified control issues that comes from trauma.
Sure.
Inability to get along, trauma.
Yep.
Impulsivity, trauma.
Yep.
So it all comes from the same place. Like we have an entire several generations that were raped, beaten, fucking murdered.
Yeah.
Let's not mince words and call it a Holocaust. And that's what we went through. The fact that we are where we are, we don't have people helping us. I like Jewish people.
Right.
I think it's great that Israel. I don't like some of the things Israel does, but I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
I get it.
Yeah.
But like, I can't abide.
But that's a hell of a bounce considering what they were through.
Yeah.
Within the lifetime of people who are still alive.
Right.
To what they've done.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking amazing. Indian country doesn't have F-16s yet.
No.
We will.
I think that there would be some seriously unhappy people if we had those kinds of things and knew how to use them. But yeah, I mean, like the Israel thing, I don't know. Like because see, it's actually an interesting thing. We actually have a lot in common with the Palestinians and the Israelis.
We do.
You know what I mean?
We do.
There's a lot of commonalities there. But, I can't just, like, there should be a Jewish state. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that. And that's another thing a lot of people don't realize is like those settlements and stuff over there. Those are being done by the extremists, the extreme Zionists, for the most part. And then because the Israeli government, from what I understand, and I'm no expert, but that there's a lot of very far right-wing elements in the Knesset.
Very, very far.
Yes. So they back up the settlement stuff.
Because it works for them too.
It
gets
does.
them what they want.
Sure. And, so I hold, I guess I could say I hold common concerns with the Israelis, and like kind of historically
That's why I find it fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I find it fascinating that Tel Aviv is what it is, considering a good portion of its population's parents or grandparents were put to death.
Yeah.
Like not that long ago.
Yeah. Like, what was it? So what was the percentage of like the Ashkenazi Jews that were killed? It was like 70% or something. It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Like more than half.
Yeah.
And that is like insane.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much the only thing that I can think of that comes close to the scope of what happened to Native people here.
Yeah. But that was done in a 4-year or 5-year period.
Exactly.
It's not over the course of centuries.
Right.
And I came to mind too. I watched this very powerful movie called Bones of Crows recently.
I didn't watch it yet. Oof. I have it ready to.
You keep your gasoline away. You might go set something on fire.
Yeah.
But
that's what I've heard.
Yeah. But there's a moment where one of the characters is liberating a Jewish death camp.
Really?
And he has a moment where he has a flashback to residential school because the quarters were so similar.
No shit.
Yeah. Oof. It's fucking tears. Yeah.
That's what, like, the couple people I talked to who did go and see it, like in the theater, they said like everybody was just in tears coming out of the theater. And I could totally see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of why I'm holding off on watching it too.
Oh, I don't blame you. Yeah,
You know,
it's something you should see, but
yeah, definitely
make it an afternoon.
Yeah, it's gonna be on a day when I don't have to go anywhere.
Maybe have someone on call.
Yep. Yeah, I'll have my wife there. Like, okay, I'm gonna need some real soft touch today.
But it puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
We're one generation out from that.
Yeah.
That's not and it was very pervasive.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
something to keep in mind. It's not an excuse, but it's like why is things dysfunctional? Oh, that's why.
Yeah, and I didn't like the thing with the settlements and kind of highlighting that it's more the extremist faction of the Israelis who are doing that. I'm not saying it to like give them a pass for doing it, but it's just like I think that context and nuance is like largely getting ignored these days. So you can't really have you can't really talk about things like that without at least putting some context into it.
Yeah. But it strikes me as interesting because they are people who went through a Holocaust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Recently,
Yep.
and they now have cities.
Yep.
And, we still need a real grocery store.
I know. Jesus Christ. I really do want, I wanted Aldi's here. And then, I don't know, I guess my wife contacted someone from the tribe or somebody over there and was asking about that. And then she was given you'd have to ask her specifically, but it was something like, oh, it's with the licensing and we can't make it work and this and that. And I'm like, how? I don't get that.
Yeah, this is why I don't like having a compliance department.
Yeah.
It is slowly dripping into everything. That's another show.
Yeah, definitely.
We do. I think we did a few solutions. I think we did.
Yep.
We could have more in this conversation. I'd love to hear people in the comments. I'd like to let you know that there are properties available for people to do things on. If you are of the bent of the hippie back to movement kind of traditional cultural type of person, there are places available to do stuff at if you're willing to work. And
let's start this movement.
Yeah. We're Sage Against the Machine. I'm Joshua.
I'm Isaac.
Come find us on, we're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. All the other things. Also see the Aboriginal Outlaws. We like them.
We do.
Even though they say filthy, horrible things. A bunch of miscreants. And the women's dance, who are our matriarchs. Yeah.